Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit differently. Today we're going to be analyzing a past game that we played, Tough Decisions in 4th Position, ranked Catan Season 2, Episode 16. If you haven't yet watched that video, feel free to pause this video and watch that video. But today we're going to be analyzing some of the key decisions that we made as well as our opponents made in this video. A while back I asked if you guys would be interested in this type of content, and the resounding answer was yes. So hopefully you enjoy this video. Please, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers by sometime next year, hopefully. I don't know, but I appreciate the support thus far and hope you enjoy this video. Let's jump in. Okay, so let's look at the board to start off. So there's a decent amount of ore on this top right hand corner, the 5 to 8, medium amount of wheat, 4, 4, 6, 2. A lot of sheep centralized in the southwest, and then a decent amount of brick, pretty low amount of wood. Now, first position places on the 5, 8, 10, which I think is a solid placement here, even if you're not able to get on a wheat sheep spot, which is pretty sure you're probably not going to be able to. The 4, 10, 5 is going to get taken. It's too high production to assume that's going to be open. The 11, 5, 6 could be open here, but you're going to be missing wheat. What you could hope for here is maybe laying the 3, 6, 11 and then going off to the 4. I think that's enough to, enough sheep and wheat to pair with your ore. Also, you have the 3 to 1 port here. You'll have the brick. So, assuming you eventually get to that 3 to 1, I think it's a pretty safe bet to place on the 5, 10, 8. I would say it's pretty standard. Now, what Orange did end up getting here is the 3, 6, 9, which is clearly a great spot for Orange because his issue here is wheat to pair with the plethora of ore that he's starting on. But he also has this ore port here, which is going to play a huge factor later on in the game. But anyway, fast forwarding, Blue's placement. Now he places on the 3, 8, 4. Now what I like about this decision is he is both on the highest amount of ore and he's also on wheat. Now there's plenty of sheep here. There's a slight risk that a lot of these sheep spots get taken, but he can, he'll end up with at least the 10-9 worst case scenario, but he'll probably end up with, maybe getting on the 6, maybe the 5, 6. Now what I don't like about Blue's position here is the fact that it's a pretty low production spot for second position. So I think something else that he could have considered is maybe not even the highest ore spot here. Maybe taking the 3, 9, 6. Now I understand you guys know more than anyone that I love being on ore. I think it's one of the most important resources, if not the most important resource in Catan. But, in this position, I don't think he has a ton of production with his second settlement, which puts him kind of behind his opponents because I think, especially for the first two players, first position and second position, you need decently high production spots, settles. So alternative options that he could have taken was the 6, 3, 9. He could have taken the 3, 8, 4. So let's fast forward to, I think, one of the coolest placements in this game, a very creative idea by our opponent. Now, if you look at this board as third position, what spots are you considering? Now, if you were like me, you're probably considering the 3, 6, 9, 3, 8, 4, 4, 10, 8 even, high production spot. What Black ends up doing is he takes the 2, 9, 10. Now, I believe in this video, I make a comment like, oh, that's a bold decision. And looking back, this is actually a really, really intelligent placement, in my opinion. So why I like Black's settlement here so much. So he places on the 2, 9, 10. Now, there's nothing that we can do in fourth position reasonably that hurts Black's placement. We could take the 3, 8, 4 here. We could take the 6, 3, 9. We could even take, maybe this 4, 10, 5 spot going to the 3 to 1 with, the 3, 8, 4, 6, 3, 9, or maybe this, 4, 11, 9 to get to the 3 to 1. We can make all those placements and it really doesn't hurt Black that much because he has so many different outs here. Now, what black could do is, you know, reasonably so, take this 11-5-6 spot. You could take the 3-6-11 spot. Hell, he could even probably pull off taking the 10-5-9 spot here. So no matter what we do, it really doesn't hurt black all that much. Now you might be saying, okay, well you could take the 4-5-10 spot and then pair with the 2-5. You could. It's not a great settlement spot. And black probably assumed this. This is probably what would hurt black the most. But even in doing this, black takes the 3-6-9 here. And he still gets on the wood port to port out his 10. He can still double up on the 3. Or, hell, he could take the 3-8-4 and do what we did and go for the 3-1 port. And he still gets on sheep. He still gets on a solid amount of ore. He has brick, plenty of wood. And that's worst case scenario. That's worst case scenario in that we take the two worst spots probably for our game. So now let's look at how we placed. Pause the video and think, what would you do in this position? So you might be considering 3-6-9, 3-8-4, maybe a high sheep spot with wheat, 4-10-5, maybe 6-3-11. Now, there's some debate in the comments. A lot of people think that we should have picked this 3-9-6 spot, and this gives us, the most amount of wheat, a little bit higher production spot than the spot we ended up taking. Potentially slide over this ore port, but we took this 3-8-4. Now, I actually agree with this settlement placement because in this position we'll probably need to port. We don't have a ton of ore. 3 is not going to be enough to, get us to the promised land, so to speak. And there's a great second settle on the 8-10. So, if you take the 6-3-9 here, maybe you go up and you get to this wood port. There's not a ton of wood on this board. So how helpful is that port? And, that's a solid, you increase your production 5, but this setup, the 8-10, that's 8 more pips. So now, if you were to go off to this, if you were to go off to this ore port, now that's just an extra 2 pips, and it's on ore, but it's only 2 pips. So I actually agree with our first placement here on the on this 3-8-4, going to the 3-1. Okay, now let's talk about our second settle. Now the second settle, I think there can be some debate had. So first, pause the video. Feel free to check out what you would do in this position. So you might have looked at the 3-9-6, 9-4-11, 4-10-5, 6-3-11, 11-5-6. Now, what we ended up doing was the 9-4-11. Now, the rationale behind this is we need a win condition here. We're obviously not going to compete for Army. So the rationale is that our settlements are close enough together to where we can connect. Now, we'll eventually get on sheep on the 3-1, and we'll have plenty of brick to port it. Also, the most important aspect of this placement is we can go off right. And there's likely going to be a settle on this 10-11-3. Now, the reason for that is because black's obviously going to place on a high sheep spot, right, since he's going for the sheep port. He's going to need wheat as well, since he's most likely going to be, at least somewhat competition for Army here, being on the 5, being on the wheat and the sheep. So black's going to take the 10-4-5 here and go down so he can get on some extra sheep. Blue needs sheep as well. Now, the biggest concern would be blue potentially taking the 6-3-11 spot. So there's a potential blue takes the 6-3-11 spot, but how much does that really help blue compared to the spots he could take here? For example, blue could take this 11-5-6, and he's on 2 more pips of production. Blue could also take this 3, 6, 11 spot, and now he has brick to pair with his wood. Blue could also take the 3, 9, 6 and have more wheat, brick to pair with his wood, and then maybe the ore port. There's really not a ton of benefit besides, screwing us by taking this 11, 6, 3. So that's a pretty safe bet. And going right, we'll have a really solid expansion spot on the 3, 11, 10 that we'll need for our 3-1. And then we'll have plenty of wood to pair with our high production of brick here on the 9 and the 8. So I think that's a solid setup. But another potential here is, and something I didn't think about, is the 3, 11, 6 here. Now what you'll find in this game as we go through it is our opponents very wisely were tight with their trading. So it took us a while to actually settle on this 3, 11, 10 spot, which made our brick pretty inactive for the most part. So placing on this 3, 6, 11 spot, not only do we start with the free road and we can still compete for this 11, 10, 3 spot, but also if we need to, we can go right. Sorry about that. We can go right and potentially connect on this 4, 11 spot for some extra brick and more wheat. So that's the only other spot I think I would heavily consider here. You could consider the 11, 5, 6 to hurt black here, since black ended up winning the game. Spoiler alert. I guess I should have said spoiler alert before I said that, but going left here to get on this 5, 9, 12 spot, but then we're not on enough wood. We can't go right, because if we went right, then blue would cut us off with the free road on the 3, 11, 6. Or we're also fighting for whoever takes the 4, 11, 9 to take it. So I really don't actually like the 11, 5, 6 here. So let's fast forward a little bit. So fast forwarding a little bit, we take our 3, 8, 4 spot. We take our 9, 4, 11 spot. So black takes the 4, 10, 5 spot, so we can get on the 10, 9, another expansion on the 5, 9, 12. Blue takes the 6, 3, 11 here, which is almost a necessity because it essentially blocks orange from getting both sheep and wheat. Blue could have taken the 6, 3, 9 himself, gotten on the ore port. That would have been super helpful. Coordinated threes, a lot of wheat, and he would have locked orange out of wheat. But the problem with this is orange could have just taken the 3, 11, 6 himself and then pointed right to the 4, 11. Now that would have helped us, but it would have given him both the wheat and the sheep here to almost for sure lock down army, starting with the free road also to get this 11-4. So blue essentially had to take the 3, 11, 6. And this is one of the reasons, by the way, that we didn't take the 11, 5, 6 to go up for the extra production. So let's go through this a little bit. So we're just going to zip through here and stop at some key moments where important decisions had to be made, and then we'll analyze them. So here I think blue could place his road to the 11, 3, 10 to fight us. I think that's a bad call because most likely we're going to beat him. We have the free road as well. We're on plenty more brick, decent amount of wood. Pretty risky to fight us for the 11, 3, 10 spot. The other thing you can consider, though, is the 11, 5, 6, placing a road down to the 11, 5, 6. Only problem there is he needs to get one of these 3-1 ports to really make that sheep worthwhile. So blue ends up opting for a road off to the 4. Now I think that is a fine road because if he places a road up to the ore, he most likely gets cut off by orange. Orange has the 10 and the 9. He's missing the sheep, but there's plenty of sheep on the board that he could either steal for. So blue places right. I think maybe a more wise call would have been to hold on to the road here and see if he could have maybe rolled some lucky 3s, lucky 11s, maybe made some trades to sneak onto this 8, this 3-1 on the 8. That port I think is way more beneficial because once he gets a city on the 8-4, then anytime a 4 rolls, he has 2 wheat for another city, and if he has a settle on the 3-1 port, anytime an 8 rolls, he has 3 ore for another city. So this port is actually really, really beneficial for blue especially. So I think blue should have held here. Now, looking back, I think I should have taken this trade. As we'll see later on, black was pretty close to his hand in terms of trading, and we needed the sheep here. So I think actually trading here would have been a good idea, because we're most likely getting a city, if not this next turn, the turn after that. I think the reason I didn't trade him here was that it helps him in the moment where it doesn't help me in the moment. Looking back, if you don't have the resource, you can't bank on people trading you, and you also can't bank on a 7. So it might have been a better call to take the trade here. So here, black doesn't trade me, and this confused me because it's like he posed the trade last turn, but he's thinking the same thing that I'm thinking. Why give, red the settlement now when most likely, maybe not most likely, but likely a 9 rolls on his turn, and if not, he trades on his turn for the settlement. Why give me the 3, 11, 10 settlement now when he could just wait? He's only on 5 cards, and a 9 is fairly likely to roll, so he doesn't trade here, which I think is smart. So here again, black gets the settlement on his turn. We don't get the sheep. So he waited, and it paid off for him. He gets the settlement. So here again, our opponents don't take our trade for 2 brick for a sheep, because the brick just doesn't help them in the way that it helps us. It gives us the settle, whereas for them, I know blue needed it, but it doesn't help him right away. And he's still on the 11. He can maybe get it. And I'm on plenty of brick, so it's not like these trades are going away. I'm eventually going to need the sheep. So I think if the person, like if I was on like maybe a 2 or a 3 or even a 10, maybe you make that trade if you need the brick. Say if blue needed the brick for the settle, which I think he did here, you make that trade. But because I'm not on any sheep, the cost is only going to go up. So you might as well hold, because you can. Now I think I make a mistake here. Black offers the wood and the sheep here, and I take this, my rationale being that I get the settle, and then I get a road to the 8-4, or potentially even trading to block blue on this 11-5, or sorry, chop blue off at this 11-5-6. But I think this is a mistake, because this 4-8-5, this 4-10-5 spot is incredibly useful for black, in that he has the sheep port, and the 5s, the 10s are going to be incredibly useful. Anytime a 10 rolls or a 5 rolls, he gets a free card, which just really ups his game. And he's sitting on a lot of cards here, so he's likely having to port for maybe some dev cards where he probably loses the race against orange. So I think it was definitely better just not to trade him, settle for the settlement, and pass here. So yeah, he gets the city. So here, let me go back real quick. So here what we could have done is place 2 roads to cut blue off at the 11-5-6. So I was highly considering this. Now the problem with it is, it took a long time to get the resources for a settle. And we're at this point pretty far behind, only with 2 settlement placements on not a crazy amount of production versus our opponents. Orange being on a ton of ore, about to get the 3-1, and black already with a city. So if we place 2 roads, sure, it cuts blue off, and we get the 11-5-6, but now it's going to be even longer to get 2 more wood for 2 more settlements. This 8-10 is a solid expansion spot, and we're probably going to get road anyway, even if we get locked in long term. So placing the 2 roads here I don't think is actually beneficial, but let me know in the comments if you think differently. So yeah, we end up getting the settlement here on the 11-10-3, and then the road to the 8-10. So here we rolled out enough resources to 4 for 1 our wheat for 2 roads to the 11.56. And we ended up doing this because we couldn't get the trade for sheep from black, which was smart on black's part. And I think this was actually a mistake. Now the reason for that is at any point, if black wanted to, they can place 1 additional road and cut us off at the 5, 6, 12. They have a juicy city on this 5, 10. And if a 10 hits, he already has a road to the 5, 6. And it's a really risky call. And the wheat is not going to roll too much for us. That 8, 10 settlement is almost just as good. So I think it was actually a mistake here to port. And also, this 8, 10 spot is a really good second settle. We really don't need the 11, 5, 6. We're going for road. And being able to port here, pour all this brick, I think would be super useful. So I think it was actually a mistake to do this cutoff to blue. Blue's not even in a scary position. I think if blue was flip-flopped with orange or black here, where they're starting to lead, maybe getting some dev cards, and that's that 5, 6 would really help them, then I think this was a good call. But because we're so far behind here, I think it's better to just hold, or maybe even 4 for 1 the wheat for a sheep. So I actually don't like this block by black on the 3 here. And he steals from us. He gets the brick, so maybe he was fishing for the brick, but this 8 is a really, really solid 8 for both blue and orange. He's most likely competing with orange long-term for army, as we're most likely going to get road here. And we're still very far away from doing anything important in this game. We know we need to get to the 3 to 1 port. We need to get to the 11, 5, 6. We don't have really any cards to fight him as of yet. So I think it's a better block on the 8. And as you'll see later in this game, orange really turns out to be the main competitor to black. And I think he could have prevented that by blocking a stronger number like the 8. Okay, so then orange rolls the 7. He puts it on the 4. And he steals from orange. Now I think here you definitely need to be putting it on the 5. Because the 5 now is coordinated for orange. And that anytime a 5 hits, black gets a free dev card, essentially. So orange needs to be blocking the 5s. He's competing with black most likely long term. And, that sheep port is a killer. So I think anytime you have a strong player with a coordinated resource, you definitely need to block one of those resources. Once again, we're not going to be really a threat here for quite a while. Even though we look like it with the roads and our expansion spot, black could always cut us off. Black also has, like I said, a free dev card every 5. And now another really juicy settlement on the 9, 5, 12. So you got to be blocking black here as orange. So fast forwarding a little bit, we still don't have a settlement on the 11, 5, 6. We still don't have a settlement on the 8, 10. And black opts for a road off to the left, which I think is a good decision here. He could, theoretically fight us to the 11, 5, 6. But I think black at this point realizes that we're really not much of a threat here. And opts instead for just the road settle, which I think is a much more efficient use of his resources. He's also most likely going to be fighting for orange for army, so he wants to use that sheep to port for ore or wheat as opposed to road resources. So our opponents did a really good job of not trading us there, by the way, for the settlement on the 8-10 or the 11-5-6. They saw that we were stuck and didn't take any of our trades. Brutal 7 this turn. Yeah, that's a brutal 7. At this point, yeah, we need to be blocking. Black, I think maybe even the 5 ore would have been fine as well. But, yeah, I think this is fine. You need to steal from black here, unfortunately. And we eventually do get the trade for the settlement. So fast forwarding a little bit here. Now, black sitting on 12 cards. He is 2 for 1 for the wheat, and he goes for dev cards here. So you might be wondering why not put a city on the 5, 9, 12. He's so far ahead of orange. I actually agree with the dev cards here because he's going to be getting blocked on these 5s, these 10s, these 9s often here. And a city really doesn't help him. Orange could, I mean, it helps him, but orange could always catch up. He's on the ore port, so he has a lot of flexibility. He's on the 6, and black knows he's going to be getting robbed a lot here. And he could get the city very quickly anyway with the amount of resources he's on. So I like his play for the 2 dev cards here. Anyway, the rest of the game kind of plays out. Black ends up winning. Nothing else kind of crazy happens. But I wanted to look at the numbers real quick. So looking at the rolls, obviously our 4s didn't hit as much as we wanted. Our 8s didn't hit as much as we wanted. But I still think we could have won this game. And I did some reflecting on, I think what we could have done a little bit better. And I think it really comes down to some of those earlier trades that, benefited our opponents in the moment, but not us right away. For those sheeps at the beginning, I think if we made those trades, we probably could have won this game. But it would have been difficult. And I think orange and black were just poised to win this game. And it kind of begs the question if a settlement like this versus a high ore board or high sheep with a port board is good enough. Because I think most games, if we were to simulate this out of 10 games, I think we win maybe 2 to 3 of 10 games if we were to make those earlier trades. If we played essentially perfect in this position. So that being said, it helps maybe understand a little bit more your placements and why ore is so important, why ports are so important, and flexibility. And then also some of those earlier trades and how important it is to trade for resources you don't have, even if it doesn't help you in the moment. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you disagree with anything I said, or if there's anything I missed, or if you like this type of content in general. I know I usually just play gameplays, but I could do more of these if you guys are interested. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.